We are starting a continuation of our budget work session. I guess, no, we don't. For work sessions, we don't do the Pledge of Allegiance. Emily, the council president, is going to be a little bit late. It is being streaming. Maybe somebody can confirm that. Is it showing up in the YouTube page? And there she is. And the slides, I'm going to send them to you now, but they are on the City of Eau Claire finance budget page, so people can follow on if you don't have a hard copy. So we can just, should we go ahead? Council President Berge, Emily, huh? Sure. There's, okay. There's more copies. Can you go tell somebody to go get the copies from the back? Copy it by off the copier. They should throw. Okay, so this is really, oh, here's one. Okay, so this is basically to continue our discussion from last week. We won't go back over all of the framework for why there is a structural deficit because we've talked about it many, many times. But we just have a little bit more information about the different scenarios that we talked about. And I also put together information that council members had sent me related to their questions or ideas, so you can refer to those. So you guys ready to get into the weeds here? Okay, and this isn't an opportunity for public comment, but people can come and comment at the next council meeting, on Monday, which has a public hearing. Either we could put it as specific to the budget, or we could put it on as just a general public comment. Okay, so, thank you.
And I can say too that people are welcome to speak anytime Monday, so on this. Doesn't have to be just during our public comment period.
Yes, I was just thinking we could also put on a specific public, but either way. So this is just a reminder, this is our anticipated gap. And then it's not a, yeah, and one of these two. It's not like a one-time situation. It would be a lot easier if we knew it was just an anomaly, but it's a structural deficit that is going to exist in perpetuity until there's tax reform at the state level. And so if we don't do something significant about it every year, the gap just continues to grow. But as we talked about, we do expect there to be changes at the state level. And those changes may help us financially, or they might make it more challenging financially, or some of both. But either way, we expect that there will be changes. These were the guiding principles that we put together, but you can, share whether or not you agree with them. Basically, really prioritizing the activities that keep us sustainable financially, that generate revenue, protecting employee well-being with no layoffs. If we did implement layoffs, it would be really demoralizing for staff and harm our reputation as what we hope to be an employer of choice. We want all of our decisions to be aligned with our community values that we've developed in the past few months. And then we're starting this work 10 months ahead of the budget passage so that we have lots of time to work out the logistics and get a lot of community feedback. And also we hope to be creative and open to change. And really nimble and flexible so that when we do see opportunities that come along, we're really well positioned to be the first in line to benefit from any changes in our state tax laws. These are our community values. This was the spreadsheet that we shared at the last meeting. And just to note, we're working on this basically a lot every day, and it keeps getting refined as we figure out what's not feasible. And maybe hopefully we'll stumble upon some opportunities along the way too. But these were the ones where we kind of are hoping to get your direction on, whether or not they're go or no go. And just to, as a reminder, this is not like a la carte. It's not like you can choose amongst these. For us to do a balanced budget, we need all of them to be implemented. And if you take one off, then we have to add one on. So we have slides on each of these to talk a little bit more about each of these approaches. As of where we are right now, which, as you know, like it's hard to talk about because we don't have it all figured out, but you can't figure it out until you start talking about it. So that's why it's going to just continue to be an evolving process as we go along for the next 10 months and beyond too. Okay, so for creation of a trash utility, I'll turn it over to the trash master, Dave Solberg.
All right, so currently we have, I guess I'll go here. I have the slides here, but it's thank you. It's so currently we have, I guess I think everybody's aware that 2 years ago now, or almost 2 years ago, we had the trash study out, and at the end of the trash study, they gave different options on how to deliver a trash program to the city of Eau Claire residents. During the budget process this time last year, we asked council if you would like us to basically get business plans for a couple of those models to see if so you knew all the financial implications, logistics, regulatory implications of switching from our trash program that we deliver now that's largely market-based, and we regulate container sizes, which days they collect, some health safety type features along with it. But basically it's up to everybody in the private, every resident can choose their own trash hauler. What the RFP is posted for, and council said, yeah, we'd be interested in learning more on what it would cost or what a business model would look like if we jumped in and provided trash service. We buy the trucks, we buy the bins, we get our own arrangement with a waste facility, we haul trash and provide that service just like we provide safe drinking water, sanitary sewer, and storm sewer. But then along with that, it was requested to look at going to district-based model where the city could be divided into a number of districts. Those districts could be bid out, and we'd have a single hauler in each district that would satisfy the argument of having only one or two trucks. One truck if it's a combination trash refuse, two trucks if it's a single trash, single refuse truck in each district, because that was feedback from the members of the public. Why do we have 8, 10, up to 10 trucks driving in our neighborhood streets on garbage days? So the RFP is posted right now. We haven't gotten the results back from that to select. But what those will do will come up with all of the operational parameters, what ordinances have to change, what agreements would have to be carved out, and what are examples of other similar efforts in other communities. So when we present those to City Council for consideration, you would have all of the information, so we don't implement something and then all of a sudden we have an unknown, next year that pops up, that an unknown cost and an unanticipated consequence. So largely any of those options. And there's district-based. We could go to single hauler for the entire city. So that's one option also. And then the city operated would. The option will be presented to the city council to have that where the city holds the contracts with the haulers. So the city bids out those services. The haulers submit a bid to the city, just like if they're doing chip seals for the city, this or that. So then, if there's customer service issues or this or that, the city is the party that would help try to improve that with the haulers based upon public feedback. Just like if we have a complaint comes in, somebody's water meter leaks, they call the city, and then some of our community service folks go out and fix that. So if that was the case, we'd have a utility, we'd likely, and these will all be education numbers that will come out of the study. But likely it would be a fourth line on the utility bill. So you have water, sanitary sewer, storm sewer, then you'd have garbage. And the city would have costs for administering that program, like we have costs for the other bills that we send out. So there'd be a small administrative fee, but then also some of the fees associated with the overall operations of the city that are governed, or that go into the trash utility. Like I've had quite a few hours, this year so far, working on different trash things. It can capture overhead and city administrative fees that are related to trash, and put that in an administrative fee in with the bill. And it's hoped that the overall bill for our property owners would go down because the city would have a larger buying power for bidding those out. If we have districts, you may have 3,000 residents in each district that a trash provider would bid on. If we go with a single hauler for the entire city, they'd be bidding at 26,000 addresses all at once instead of going out and trying to get the service with that. So it's hoped that it would improve service, but it also would be a way to help with additional staff expenses that come out of the operating budget that relate to trash that would be included in that. And the other part of it that wouldn't really affect the operating budget, but there's a discussion around compost currently, in providing compost, as well as lawn waste pickup and large item pickup. So the requirements for trash utilities, in an effort to improve customer service, if council so chose that large item pickup and lawn waste pickup was a policy decision they would like to have trash companies provide to city residents, that could be included in the bidding documents that trash companies reply back to, and those services could be restored to the residents like they were previously administered. I think 3 years ago was the last year that they offered that. So it would be a way to help capture funding for city efforts that are going into trash, that a lot of the efforts that go into it are currently unfunded, and then hopefully lower the prices and potentially expand and improve customer service. So that's trash in a nutshell, if you have any questions on that.
So, yeah.
Trying to have the study back this summer so city council can hear it, the presentation, and act on it before early fall, before the operating budget gets approved.
So maybe for each one of these, you guys can ask any questions, and additionally, including any that you had sent, and then hopefully give some guidance as to thumbs up, thumbs down, or like, do you want to explore more? And keep in mind that there's other tasks on our list that we're not asking you about because they can be internal. So we need to find a permanent home for the brush site so that then we can purchase a scale so that we can better differentiate residential versus commercial lawn waste drop off, and that might relate to trash, but that's not really necessarily one. I think you guys all like that idea, so it's not really controversial. Oh, sorry, are you facilitating?
I don't know. Should I?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure,
Might as
well,
well. Yeah, right. I don't know who was first, but Nate?
Yeah, first off, I have almost a point of order question or comment, and then I've got a question regarding trash. I just got a message from a neighborhood association president saying they're trying to find this meeting, the streamed meeting here, and they're unable to. I guess it's not on the city website right now. So just a heads up on that.
You want to wait until we...
I checked it. You can follow the link on the meeting page. Visit us on YouTube, and it'll take you to the.
Is it still working?
Yep.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you.
I can send you a link right now.
Okay, thank you. And then with this, and I don't know if this is knowable yet, or if you covered it and I might have missed it. Do we have any sense of how much garbage truck traffic this could reduce on our streets?
We know what the end result could be. If it went district-based, well, if it went district-based or city-operated, or a single hauler for the city, it would at most be 2 trucks per day, or it could be 1 in those neighborhoods. And what the reduction is would depend on the makeup of the haulers on that street. If there's a street that all the residents are only using 2 haulers, at most there'd be 4 trucks now. If they're using all 4 of the bit large haulers, there could be up to 8 trucks. But most of them use a dual truck. So if you lived on, say, Main Street, there's probably 4 trucks that are going on garbage days right now. And that could be reduced to probably 1 or possibly 2, but I would anticipate it would be a combo truck that would have garbage and recycling.
Okay, thank you.
Aaron?
Thank you. So is this because it's on the list, like we would have to do something involving trash for the 27 budget as part of the overall budget fix?
Yes.
Okay. Second question. Do we have, anybody that knows me knows that this is something I support, but if we do it, I want to make sure it's done, in a way that people are like, dang, that worked really well, right? Do we have administrative capacity to start a whole new department right now?
What would, like if we bought the trucks and provided that, or if we just administered a private hauler and set the bills out, like the billing part?
Both.
So, we've been looking at, and I think a previous slide talked about transfers from other positions. So if we started this and did the bidding, the inspection of the trucks, the sending out of the bills, people from departments that would have reductions in staff that would be transferred out instead of getting laid off could go into this department to send out the bills, and then their staff time would be covered as an administrative fee on the trash bill that goes out. So it would be self-funded, like parking. All of the parking revenue from on-street parking will pay for enforcement, parking administrator, and then the money that's left over goes into the capital. Same thing for this. It would be designed to capture the administrative costs of operating it with a small administrative fee. And it's hoped the buying power and the bidding power of having a larger number of residences that they'd be bidding on would drive the price down even more than what the administrative fee would be to send the bills out and administer the program on the city side. So hopefully lower cost to residents, fewer number of trucks on, it would shift some costs off of the general fund and hopefully improve customer service and potentially expand it if composting, recycling, and large item pickup were policy decisions the council wanted to move forward with. As far as buying trucks and buying bins and hiring trash professionals, that's a whole nother ballgame, but this study will have that plan in there to consider, and that would probably be, I would estimate it probably a 2028 at the absolute earliest implementation, just with the lining up agreements for hauling the waste to and buying it, and how do you finance 10 garbage trucks or 8 or however many we have to have for that. So that largely I wouldn't anticipate that option would be a realistic option for 27, but it would be something we could plan for maybe in 28 on there. But council will have hopefully all of those numbers and all of those scenarios spelled out so you can make an educated decision with all of the unknowns known.
Larry?
Yeah, for me, we have a city attorney here today. I have a legal.
We have Kitsy.
Did anybody
We'll
stay
take
at
down the note.
Holiday Inn Express
Yeah.
last night? Not to plug a hotel chain, but
So my question is, I can see the city we are struggling financially. Can we go fund? So we ask our residents to donate to us.
We can always accept donations if, approved by council. I wouldn't necessarily create a GoFundMe account, but I'd look at more targeted purchases,
Where
targeted
can we-
items.
Where we cannot do that.
No, I don't think it's been done before. That's when we'll have to put some thought into.
So maybe people might be more likely to donate to a general, to something like recreation programming. I know we did set up a way to donate, thanks to former council member Gregor, we set up a way to donate for street renovation. And I think we got about $20 donation, so.
It was from Jeremy, too.
And I think,
Yeah.
I think he self-funded, if I remember.
I mean, area, you do see like chicken dinners, area fire departments do, so that, municipalities do fundraise. So we could just do chicken dinners, I guess.
But I think to that line, Larry, like, example for Hobbs. Say Hobbs was purchased by a public-private partnership. I think if there were future expenses with Hobbs that we would have or operations, I think some of the private parties out there have a better ability to fundraise in the city. So through a public-private partnership, you could bring in private donations that would help those private partners that are now taking on work that the city previously did. So it would accomplish the same thing. But I think like the soccer groups, the hockey groups, the baseball groups probably would have a much more fertile ground for getting donations in to put lights at Fairfax or lights at Soccer Park or something like that than we would having a GoFundMe to do the same thing on there. Just from what I've seen with working with private parties and the philanthropy that goes with nonprofits or other groups, like the Day Resource Center did a great job. Library was a little bit of an exception, but library constituents and supporters are very loyal to the library cause with that. But Hope Gospel Mission, when they built on Claremont, they did a fabulous job fundraising. Pablo. So if we can partner with groups like that to help with some of our costs and the cost shift over to them, I think that's a good way to fundraise also for that.
You have a question, Aaron? Oh, Josh?
Thanks, Emily. So going back to the page here where it has the budget reduction scenarios, so trash utility penciled in a savings of, there you go, yeah, $250,000. So looking at the increase in trash utility here in item number 7, is that a attainable goal with the creation of a trash utility, or, and I'm not seeing, and I came, sorry, I was a little late, I came halfway through the presentation, like where the actual dollar savings realized from the creation of a trash utility versus current system, and how we, save this money.
I can answer that. We do have 2.5 FTEs and some administrative costs, a very small amount of administrative costs that would be charged there. If those 2.5 FTEs would be shifted over, hopefully with economies of scale in other areas, that we can cover the needs of the trash utility with just that minimal investment. If the trash utility wasn't approved, we'd look at shifting in other directions.
just for example, you all had asked for funding for a sustainability coordinator, and one of the funding sources could be half through the trash utility, and then the other half is currently through the utilities.
Mhm.
So that's just one of that, that's one of that part included in there.
And then to follow up on that one, so the, excuse me, the funding for these 2.5 FTEs come through that the city would then charge trash haulers, administrative fees, et cetera, and recoup costs via administering the services?
Yeah, it would add administrative, clerical, the coordination with the public on the utility bills, and then having a billing clerk dedicated to trash billing. And we'd probably look at cross-training everybody in financial operations. So it'd be almost, it would mold into a little bit of everybody that assisted and could help.
Thanks.
Okay. Oh, Aaron?
Yeah, so if we did a trash utility, is there a way that we could do both? I think when we talked about it maybe over a year ago, there was the idea of doing districts and, if we're gonna bid stuff out, to me, it would seem like optimal to make sure there's always at least two people that could bid on it, or two companies that could bid on it. Because once you only have one, then we're kind of at the mercy of whatever they bid, right? And so if we did districts, that would keep, hopefully keep multiple companies capable of bidding on that, but also give us the potential to do a pilot of like our own district if we were thinking about getting into the game. So,
Good, I believe Cincinnati did that in the past.
Right, and then we're just saying, like, so it's taking us a half hour to go through the first item, and there's like a lot more items, so just.
And Dave and I have to go to a band meeting at 6:45.
Actually, I'm supposed to go to that band meeting as well, but my husband's going, so, but yes, yeah. So
But
do you
we-
have, we can take your question, but we, I don't know. can I get
So,
over
yeah,
it?
I think mainly we need to know, do we want to continue to explore this? Do we think it's, like pretty solid? Because there'll be a lot more discussion. So kind of at this point, we're looking for the go for it. But, sorry, I didn't, okay.
Okay,
On what, on trash?
Creating a trash utility.
yes. Anyone opposed? Speak now, or hold your peace. All right, moving on.
Oops. Okay, the next one is trying to restructure the boards, commissions, and committees so that they take, especially the advisory ones, so that they take less staff time. Our advisory committees are created by the council, so they're optional. Some are not optional, like a plan commission or board of review. And it takes about 1.5-ish, a little more, to staff the advisory committees and the advisory committee of appointments. It's basically like it's like running a little mini city with 150 employees, and so it does take a bunch of time. And then the bids also take a bunch of time, and that's not necessarily addressable through this, but that might be a parallel process to figure out if there's a way to reduce the staffing time required to staff the bids. It had been mentioned, the possibility of them merging, that would make it a lot easier, or maybe there's something we can do with DECI. Just so, for example, in my office, we have one staff person who's fully funded by ARPA, and they manage all of the boards, commissions, and committees. So that person is going to move into a different funding source, so then it will just be me. And I can't manage that. So we have to, this is just an example of where we have to, with the ending of ARPA and cuts, we have to figure out a way to reduce the workload. So do we want to explore this?
Ooh, that's about, okay. Josh, I think, let's go around the,
That'd be fine.
Okay.
Questions, is transit required for anything with transit? I mean, do we have to have a transit commission?
I believe it does, but it doesn't have to meet, it could meet quarterly, or it could be part of a BPAC, or, it could be a mobility commission that meets quarterly or something like that.
Okay, and then parks, Waterways and Parks, it's, Waterways and Parks, I think to keep being a Tree City USA, we have to have some sort of group that does that. I mean, if it meets, less often. I know it's not germane to the budget, but I think, we're like 34 years in a row Tree City USA, so just throwing that out there. And then, I think you were saying you have that one position still funded in your office, and if that gets moved, effectively the city manager office would have only an employee of one, being you, with no help? Is that what I heard?
Well, there's our communications person, and our city manager's office right now is Anushay, and the city communications person, and Dave,
and you.
and me. So, yeah, no, we don't have any admin support in the city manager's office right now.
I know you are hesitant to cut other places when sometimes you can cut your own stuff, but independently of you being city manager, I think the city manager office does need to have adequate support. I'm
Yeah.
concerned about cutting admin services to that office. So I just want to mention that here as we're talking about budgeting, because the less admin help that our leadership team has to do stuff, gears of the city get kind
Yeah.
of gummed down. So I just have a concern with that.
So our kind of idea, I totally agree, and that would definitely be one thing we would have to add right away if we ever get more funding. Or if I went away, there would need to be, that's an expectation, I think, to have a, we do, so Anushay does all of the council support work, like booking travel arrangements and stuff like that. So somebody needs to keep doing that no matter what. And, but our main hope is to consolidate constituent services. So say, like, right now, I answer all of the emails that come in, including, like, try to stay on top of the ones that come to the council. So as constituent services, right now, there's a whole process getting worked out between neighborhood services and community services to create a pool of kind of Swiss Army knife constituent service reps who can answer the majority of questions or carry out the majority of transactions that occur. And then we're hoping to shut down some of the constituent service points in the city and take people to one central location. So as that happens, partly hiring up in neighborhood services, then I believe that those groups can take over my correspondence and probably all of your correspondence. And they can also work, Tess would be our communications person would be part of that group. And so they would be working to update the website. We're rolling out a new website. We're creating a customer relationship management tool that interfaces with Cartograph. So I think there will be ways that some pieces of what I'm doing get shifted over to somebody else.
Okay. Andrew?
Thank you. This is something I feel strongly about, that our boards, committees, and commissions are an incredibly important way that we engage our community members, not only in their expertise in helping us make decisions, but I think in building trust within our community as we tackle difficult decisions. And so, this is a program that's been around for 100 years. We figured out a way to make sure that our boards, committees, and commissions help the council as we create policy. And out of 500 employees, it's 1.2 FTE. We get a lot for that. And so I don't think I'm in favor of, out of these different options, of restructuring boards of committees and commissions. The last point I'll make is, one of our 5 areas that we've identified in our strategic plan, our goals, and our community values is being a community that connects with our residents. And we're facing a crisis in leadership right now across this nation when it comes to local government. When it comes to government generally, people are losing faith and losing trust in their local government. And this is one of the key ways that you build trust in your community, is you have boards, committees, and commissions that help bring in people to this process. So I'm not in favor of the restructuring of the boards, committees, and commissions.
Okay. I'm just going to go around the line. So Larry?
Even me, I concur what Andrew said. I'm not in favor for this.
I just want to remind everybody, this is not like a set of options. We have to do all of these to balance the budget. So if we don't like some of these, we have to identify, it's like 1.5 positions. So we need to find another place to cut 1.5 positions.
And the last time I checked, you are not a superwoman. So you can't do all these things. You need somebody to help you. So I think Anisha is doing an amazing job.
Anusha is going to stay no matter what, but we don't have a funding source for her to continue to do that work. And it's also people from there's some boards, commissions where 3 staff people attend. So it's in engineering, in planning, in community services. We can do this. I'm just letting you know that if you say no to any of these, we have to find other options.
Okay, thank you.
Aaron?
Yeah, so there's some of them that do have like actual decision-making power, like transit and plan and stuff, but the advisory ones, I guess, is there any way that we could just restructure them in such a way, like if they don't actually have, I guess what I'm trying to say is if they don't have legislating power, do they even require a staff person? Could we train the chair to be able to, and run the meetings and have, the recorder use the AI thing that everybody's using for taking minutes and all that? I mean, if it's not a committee or commission that can actually make policy, then is it still held to the same standards for, you know, open meeting and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think what we could do is ask them to become independent, but sort of like our neighborhood associations where staff go and attend at their invitation. Or DECI is like this now too, so they could continue to be advocates, but they would then no longer be a part of the city, so then they wouldn't have to follow all of those requirements. So that would be one of the scenarios.
Clara?
Thank you. So I understand that this isn't a menu option, but we still, I think you're asking for feedback one by one, so I think we're
Yes.
going to give you feedback one by one, and some of the things, I think feedback you've already received has the options for other reductions, right?
Right.
So, but yes, I just think that cutting the boards, committees, and commissions, and also, I really believe we have to fund that ARPA position that supports the city manager's office, no matter what. I mean, or figure out a way to be able to fill that role. I do think it's really important that there be some, and I don't know if maybe the other two, the marketing person and Anushay, can do it or not, but I don't think we can put that on you yourself or Dave.
Okay. Nate?
Well, thank you. I do support this. The big basis is that our city has a lot of diligent and hardworking and capable volunteer leaders on these commissions, and I think they would be able to handle it. It might not be the case 3 to 5 years from now. Who knows what will happen? But I do think this is one of the more doable options.
Okay. Do you have something else, Andrew?
Yeah, just, it's not even about this specific one, but I'm just confused, and maybe it's because I missed the last meeting, but we have a reduction scenario, and as I understand it, it's already seems like it's been narrowed. How do I put this? You said, city manager, essentially, we can't choose different ones here. It has to be these ones, but was there a point where there was double the number here to choose from and it got narrowed down to this list? Did I miss a first step that got us to this point? Or
No, we
this is
just,
our
we
choice?
can't think of any others that try to achieve this goal, these goals of,
Okay.
and, you know, we could,
So just so I'm clear, all of the ones being suggested added up to the
yeah.
right amount, but there's
Right.
there's none others beyond.
Right,
Okay.
so if you say we don't want to cut this position, therefore we have to cut out of the streets budget or the parks budget, or it can't be police really, it can't be fire really, it could be library, it could be health. You have to cut one librarian to fund this position, or it's really, like, that's why we're kind of at this point, is because we don't want to cut anything, you know?
But if I could, but there are other suggestions that have come in the last week.
Yeah.
About other things to cut that are not on this list.
That we talked about last time.
I mean, we can look at those too, so like, that's on this list, it's like,
Do you have that, Andrew?
yeah, I handed it out to everybody. So it would be like cut the police department by having them take over parking, but then that's likely that that work would not get filled, and then we wouldn't collect the revenue, which we're balancing this budget on, so that affects the revenue. And then don't provide raises. This is something we could do, but then it gets us farther and farther behind. And it really would be really damaging to morale. It would really hurt people because they're already feeling like they're really overworked and they're trying their very best to do what we're supposed to do. So that's kind of the only two that we see that, you know, but I mean, we can do them. It's up to you guys ultimately, but those are ones that are really, really hard for us to support.
Okay. Well, let's keep in time. Or is that okay, Clara? Okay. I think we're just gonna have to keep
Yeah,
talking
okay.
about it. But I think for this one, yeah, it seems
This
like
is a
there's-
no. Does anybody
Well,
support it?
it sounds like Nate does.
And Ethan.
And I'd be open seeing restructuring.
Okay, wait, so is it 4 and 4 then?
I mean, for me, the devil's in the details
Right.
on that. I
Me
think
too.
there's absolutely a way that it can be done that requires less staff time and resources, but I wouldn't want to just do that
So
in
you-
ways that, yeah.
You would like to explore it?
Yes. I think
How many
there's.
people would like to explore it?
I'll explore it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
And it's the restructuring, not the eliminating. I mean, that's the,
Restructuring.
so we're not.
Yeah, I don't want to see them go away. I want to see how we give it a good effort to try to continue them in some manner.
Continue
That-
them,
yeah,
but maybe
Aaron was talking about, maybe like, maybe they don't need so much staff input, or they meet less regularly, or something that can still maintain, because there's a lot of goodwill, like Andrew's saying, that comes from these, and people feel really involved in that part of the community, and it'd be a shame to see them go away. But I understand the budgetary issues here, but, restructuring to save what we can.
Okay.
Can I make a suggestion?
yep.
I mean, we have council members on most of these. It's something that council members could take on.
Yeah.
The role of the liaison between the city, would that be legal, or?
I think we could put that on a list of areas to explore. But you guys are coming up to your organizational meeting, so at the advisory committee of appointments, or you could even enlarge it. But anybody who's interested in this could try to get on that and then really try to come back with a proposal in the next 10 months. Right?
Okay.
So is that good for this one?
Yep. Moving on.
All right. Reduction of contributions to outside entities. What did we put in there? 30,000? No, 40,000? This is how.
I'm not sure.
This is how much we donate now. DECI, we had talked about lowering it down to 50 last year, but then we sustained them again. And were you able to give them? Okay. Go
So
ahead. Katie.
we have $60,000 in that reduction. I think just without offering any opinion, it's a voluntary donation just from a fiscal perspective. So I think we're receiving services for those, but again, this is something that wouldn't be related directly to a city function. So the proposal would reduce senior center down to 0 and then reduce Stuckey down to 50,000 as Stephanie would propose in the budget.
Anyone else? Okay. Aaron?
I think that there's probably ways that we can figure out interactions with both of those organizations to what's the word I'm trying to use? Sort of like fill a little bit of that gap that's being left. Like maybe one thing that we can do is figure out a way to get like the senior center a bunch of like reduced price bus passes that they can, for their
Yeah.
people, or like we were talking about the other day, like donate some spots in the ramp to DECI that they can use as part of a membership thing or something. I think there's ways that we can do this that could work, but with things getting sort of hollowed out in economic development, DECI's taken on a lot of the things. I mean, I guess because it used to be part of economic development, it's still doing that, but you know what I'm saying. So.
Larry?
Yeah, Steph, help me out. So when did we give the senior center 36,200? What does it use the money for?
It's a very old, maybe Kitsy knows more, but it's been happening for many, many years, and the county does as well. It's just part of their operating. It's not a contract. It's just something that's been done for many years. So they use it as part of their general operations.
Okay. Okay,
Claire?
thank you.
Clara?
Thank you. So when I add up those three items, we're talking about all three of those, that's 150,800. But our little spreadsheet shows reduced contributions to outside agencies to 60,000. So is it really like, are we?
I think these are the ones left within your budget that you are giving contributions to. So this is the full list that you could choose from. So this one is somewhat of a menu. The Economic Development Corp does have negative impacts, just because of what it pays for itself. But the proposal with 60,000 would be 36,200 from the senior center, and then the difference is from DECI. we did reduce the EDC last year throughout the budget
and
process down.
I do-
And senior center, actually.
I do agree with Aaron that there's probably ways, like, maybe through our health insurance or something like that, we can pay to allow our employees to use the senior center gym or something. And with DECI, maybe there's contracted work they could do, but we haven't looked into that yet. We are meeting with the senior center next week.
So I'm just, it's a math question for me. So when we say 72,000 for DECI, but somebody said this reduces it down to 50, are we talking about reducing it by 22,000?
Yep.
And then the senior center, 36,200, so it's roughly 58,000.
Right.
And that's where we get to the 60, and leaving Economic Development Corporation
Yep.
as is. Got it. Now I understand that. Math. Thank you.
Yep, that would put DECI at 48,200.
That's what I was thinking, more of like an RFP system, if they, so a contract.
Well, yeah, we could do, this is what that we could do that, but since there's so few that we give it to, yeah, we wouldn't exactly want to put like 50,000 into an account and then give it away. But yes, something more like a contract.
Larry?
Yeah, thank you. Casey, this is for you. So for my knowledge, for everybody here, what's our debt? A city debt?
What's the whole?
Yeah.
What are we trying to fill?
That would be in relation to the capital improvement plan, so separate from this budget, but it's around 250 million outstanding. I mean, just how much we owe, it's a good round number.
Well, I think you're asking, like, what's the hole in our budget? Like, what
Yeah.
are we trying to? Yeah, because I
Yeah,
don't
the
think Larry
budget
was here at the
deficit,
meeting
yeah.
last week, so. What?
No, I'm
Okay,
trying to
so
talk. Go
The
ahead.
deficit in our operating budget this year is projected to be around 2.2 million.
Is that what you're looking for?
Okay, no,
Oh.
I'm saying as a debt, the overall debt, the city overall. So we have operating budget, which is maybe 200 million, 100 and, I don't know, you are the math.
Yep, we're just at $199 million in operating budget, yep.
So which credit we have? Do we have double A, triple A?
Double A,
Our
Double
bond
A.
yes, I
rating?
want to
Okay.
say, yep.
If we need to refinance our debt, can we do that?
Sure, we're still in a good position to do that. We do have a good savings account or fund balance. We don't have it maxed out. Like if you max out a credit card, that could decrease your, rating at home, but the city does not have, we haven't hit the cap there, so.
So then in my next, I'm sorry to.
That's okay. We just got an hour,
If
so.
we can refinance, can we solve this problem of 2.2 debt and deficit?
Sure, no, that's a great question. We can borrow money for capital items. So we want to think of that as brick and mortar, streets. You cannot buy that, you cannot issue a bond to pay for people providing services unless it's part of, say I was building a fire station or something. Yeah, that's part of the building. But no, you cannot. No, you can't borrow money to pay for pay for our general operations.
Okay, thank
The
you.
majority of the situations is no, but no, I can't fix that with issuing debt.
Okay, that's I wanted to make for
Sure.
sure for the general, yeah.
Thanks, Larry. Okay. Paid parking and,
Wait, so what,
Oh.
oh, sorry.
I was ready to move on.
Well, I want to know, is this thumbs up, thumbs down? So reducing this
Well, I
by
think-
58,000?
I think the same, council's interested in, can you refigure things like what Aaron was saying, or? like,
So
ref-
we can't guarantee, but we could look at contracts with DECI, and we can look at some arrangement with the senior center, but it would still be a reduction. So, and there will be a lot of people coming to comment about this, and so I want to get I want you all to weigh in on this.
I think it's worth exploration.
Okay.
And then bigger picture, so just a reminder that this is not, hey, let's cut this. This is, hey, let's explore what we can do in this direction. So you're limiting the options of what to explore, right?
Well, this is, if you feel like this is not probably going to work, then we would just take this off the list and look for something else.
Okay.
So this is like, yeah, if you can sort it out, go for it.
I think process-wise, what happens is the city manager presents her budget to you. So I make changes within these respective areas. So we'd like to prevent having to maybe have 25 amendments to an operating budget, you know, and kind of all be on the same page. But I do clerically have to move a lot of things around if we make some of these changes, so.
Some of
Okay.
the
We
sta-
want to get to something final before maybe, you know,
and like
in
this-
September.
The staffing
September.
ones we're doing right now, so as positions come open, we're not filling them, we're moving people into those, and so that would be a different, like if we need to leave, we don't want to do layoffs, so if we need to lay off, if we need to eliminate more positions, we really want to start that right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Clara?
I support this, exploring.
Charlie?
I support it as is. I'm not entirely sure. I don't think we're in a position to just continue to explore these options. I don't understand where additional money is just going to appear if we explore it for a few more weeks. I understand these are going to be difficult decisions, which many people did say last week. I think we have to be willing to make those difficult decisions kind of with a more timely manner so we can come to an understanding of what this is really going to look like. It's not easy, it's not fun. I know we'll hear about it, but that's the position that we're in. So I support it as written. I think it should be taken off the list as a go.
As written, you're talking the full total of all of these?
No,
Oh,
just the
I see.
60,000.
The 60,000, 58,000.
Anybody else?
I also support cuts to the senior center and cuts to DECI.
All right, that's a majority, so let's continue on.
Okay. Paid parking and parks. The neighborhoods.
So very, very quickly, I'll hit the neighborhoods first. So since I've been at the city, when I started as city engineer, there were requests, frequent requests for Randall Park and Third Ward for residential parking permits in programs. They weren't to raise revenue, they were more to contain people that were coming for either large employers or the university from congesting the neighborhoods. And they had they had sought a way for some relief for the residents in those neighborhoods. So one way that we can control parking in those neighborhoods, although there hasn't been a strong push for it lately, but I've been out of the, my engineer hat has been off and I haven't been in the neighborhood association meetings like I was when I first started, but you basically control the parking in the neighborhoods like you have in downtown. So it would be the same program. It would be a paid parking program. If you're a student or if you work at Mayo or if you're work at the courthouse and you're parking in the neighborhoods, it'd be the same as parking on Barstow Street. But if you lived in the neighborhoods, you could contact the parking utility, get your license plate in the system, so property owners wouldn't have to pay to park in front of their houses. But if other people come in, then they would have to pay to park in front. And it would satisfy the putting a capital cost on the price to park in the neighborhoods, which typically with, when you capitalize something, it helps reduce the demand for it. So it would alleviate some of the parking congestion in the neighborhoods. And then what other areas have done, other cities, with the money that is generated from like parking districts, they recycle the money that is left over after paying for the enforcement and the administration of those zones back into those zones by helping pay for street maintenance, decorative or historic street signs, neighborhood parks, and so forth. So it would be something that the neighborhoods could benefit with the infrastructure being maintained, and it would reduce the need for having that specific park maintenance come out of the general fund, and it could be reimbursed with whatever's remaining from parking is an example. So that's what the neighborhoods are. It certainly isn't for all the neighborhoods like Putnam Heights, North, airport neighborhoods, Upper West Side. It would be in the areas that have requested them in the past that have strong congestion present in those, and largely it's the two neighborhoods in downtown. As far as the other parks facilities, if you go to Minneapolis, if you go to other communities, if you pull in, like in Minneapolis, you pull in any of their parks, if, you know, whether it's a parking lot of 10 or a parking lot of 60, if you park in their parks, you're getting on an app and you're paying to park there. So one thought would be to help fund the maintenance and upkeep of the park system and parking lots like at Fairfax Park, dog parks. You pull in, you know, to Owen Park, you pull in to use the playground equipment, access the trail, you'd pay a parking fee for that parking lot, and then that money would go to offset the capital fund or the general fund expenses for maintaining, and then remaining funds could go into the capital improvements of the parks, whether it be Fairfax Park, Carson Park, Phoenix Park, and so forth. So that and more, that would be, you know, potentially the decision point for council right now would be, yes, explore it. The second decision point would be, is it appropriate for all parking, or would it be in select areas? And then based upon that guidance from council, we could estimate what the revenue would be to be included in the operating budget for that. So that's those two policy points for council.
Okay. Charlie?
Thank you. I've obviously held no secret about disagreeing with the parking in the neighborhoods, but I also have no source of where to make up for that, so I'm not going to really put up too much of a fight against it. I guess I just have some questions about it in terms of, like, I do feel it's somewhat punitive against, like, the college renters, since that is, like, the two neighborhoods that we're discussing here, or two of the three. And you had mentioned the permits from property owners. A lot of these renters are obviously not the property owners. They're going to be dealing with landlords, either a large landlord or a family-owned landlord. I would just make a strong request to try to somewhat find a way where it's not going to really negatively impact the college renters who have no other choice but to park on the street.
Sure.
Whether it's added through their rent or just some sort of working with the landlords to try to make that possible, because I don't want it to have a down the road impact on students deciding not to live in this area, deciding to go to school somewhere else, then an impact on the university, which might be a reach, but it is a concern. And then just regarding, I'm just curious, when you say Phoenix Park, is this a different, is Riverfront Terrace not already covered under the paid parking, or is there some other aspect of Phoenix Park you're talking about?
Yeah, I guess that would cover just Riverfront Terrace. There's a parking lot across Madison Street from Phoenix Park that it really isn't Phoenix Park, but helps support it. So that could be capitalized. And I would point out that, you know, this is something that at least when we were having the discussions, it was popular with the residents of Third Ward, and it was popular with the residents of Randall Park. It was not popular with the employees of Mayo, and it wasn't popular with the employees of the courthouse or the students. So it is something that, if it is something that we move forward to, I just want council to be aware that there will be some feedback that I would expect with those. But we can, you know, to your point, Charlie, with you know, could rental, or could there be something, could you treat on-street parking, you know, like a permit program in those neighborhoods if they need, if an address, you know, it wouldn't necessarily go to a property owner, but like one free parking space or license plate entered per address, you know, and then the residents there, the system would track it, and then who gets it in a rental, I don't, you know, that'd have to be, leave it up to the landlord or leave it up to whoever submits for that address first. You know, we'd have to figure out a way to be fair on it, but that would definitely be something to consider. You know, if you're a student there, can you get an on-street, an extra one for $30 or something? Or if you're a landlord, if a landlord currently is grandfathered in and they're not providing enough off-street parking for their properties, is there a way to make them provide on-street permits for their tenants? Because ultimately, it should be landlord's responsibility to provide adequate parking for their tenants.
I would agree.
But those details would be able to be worked through if it was the overall initiative was something the council wanted to consider.
can I just ask I know we're at time, very quick follow-up?
But yes.
And so since I know that you had said in the past this had been brought forth due to like simply parking concerns in the past, and now it is because of a financial concern and how it could impact the budget, well, say 3 or 4 years down the line, the financial situation we're in is figured out and this wouldn't necessarily be required. If it was just because of the concerns of people parking in the neighborhood, I probably wouldn't be inclined to support it. Because of the financial aspect, I do. Could it come forward in 4 years and say, okay, we're gonna remove these 3 neighborhoods from this? Or if we like put it in, does it get difficult at that point to revert that policy?
No, I think if council wanted to revisit it or, re-explore, where the funds go, maybe, when we set up the TID on Water Street, a big portion of that TID was to help with conversion of the duplexes into more naturally affordable, accessible, affordable housing or whatever in there. And so it might be something that, all right, if we don't need it in the general fund, it goes to neighborhood improvement programs for that, or maybe it goes to the overall neighborhood association of Eau Claire. So it would be something that I certainly would not intend any of the revenue from those neighborhoods to go to, put grandstand in Carson Park or something, or restore, chilling equipment at Hobbs. I think the residents would expect it to be somewhat, used to benefit their areas, which it would with controlling parking, and then also for the efforts to do that. And if it does help with, like La Crosse, there's a whole bunch of them. If you look at parking benefit districts in La Crosse, where a neighborhood, they got the historic signs, they got neighborhood parks improved, they got, I forget what else it went in, probably better lighting. I know Randall Park in the past had asked for additional lighting in their alleys, and that could be a revenue source for those initiatives, so the general fund doesn't have to pay for it. So,
Okay.
Can I just add to that? This is where we hope that, I would hope that we could potentially provide a discount to residents, so you get the first X dollars of hours for free, or it could be bundled with like a Fairfax pool pass or your annual dog permit pass, like check here if you want a parking pass to go. So I think there's ways that we can help our local LVRF taxpayers so that they get some relief.
Clara?
Thank you. Math again. So we've got 100,000 for each of these as kind of, I guess, additional revenue for the budget. But I'm wanting to understand how much do we really expect to bring in? Because you're also talking about like possibly historic signs and better lighting and all of that. Have we done any real scenario calculations on what the money looks like? Is it really this 100,000? And then that also leaves room for some other neighborhood improvements, or are we just kind of blue skying right now?
everywhere that they've used, they've used funds for improvements have come after all the expenses have been paid. So all the enforcement expenses, administrative expenses, and so forth. The 100,000, probably a conservative estimate, I would say, but a lot of it depends on, is it $1 or 50 cents an hour? We have to have 50 cents an hour is where you pretty much break even with fees on it. So, and how much of an effect is it going to have on the students? But I would estimate it probably as a conservative estimate, but even with like downtown parking, we had that as a conservative estimate also, just because we didn't want to overestimate, and then all of a sudden we get to the end of the year and we got a big budget. But
You feel confident that we could gain an extra 100,000 on each of these before doing any other expenses?
I think it was combined between, was it combined between
So
the two?
we've got 100,000 for each.
I tend to think that this.
For the paid parking in city parks.
City parks and the
yeah.
neighborhoods.
I think the neighborhoods, you would probably generate that. The parking in city parks, it depends on if you are looking at all of them or not, and
Right.
and which events at Carson Park is it, is all of a sudden the
But I'm
big.
just wondering, what is the 100,000? What's the impact
It's just the
of?
back of the envelope, basically. So it's like looking at, if you have Carson Park and you share the revenue with the Express, and it's this many games and this many stalls and this % used at this, so it's kind of mapping it out like that. But I don't think that it would pay for a lot of amenities initially, but maybe more later.
I really want to know our optimism of relief to the budget.
It was our best guess. So it could be better, it could be worse, but all these is, like, we're going to get this more refined as we go.
Okay.
So we're kind of just,
I'm confident in Carson. You can also look at Fairfax and Hobbs and just the volume there. If the revenue estimates weren't coming in, we'd be looking at the expenditure side. So a lot of these have to be monitored very close when they're estimated and projected. So we'd have to be reducing expenses as we move through the year if it wasn't coming in how we needed it to.
it's like everything we're doing is basically bootstrapping. It's a very small group who's trying to pull off all this stuff, but if we don't try, then it's not like we can just kind of.
I get it, but I'm
Yeah.
just wondering, how do I give feedback if I don't know the scope of what we're talking about to really get 100,000 relief on each of these?
I can send you a spreadsheet if you want to dig into it. Would that help?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, if it's not extra work for you, I mean,
I mean, just how we
No,
came
we've
to our
got-
estimate.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that would be helpful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We definitely have that available, and I mean, your contra to this would be just reducing staff in those areas and reducing all the maintenance and, in those figures. So I think that, this is kind of a blend because we're already regressive on the staff in relation to acreage, miles, population, and number of parks from our last study.
Oh,
Okay, I'm sorry.
Larry, do you have something?
Yeah. Excuse me. I will comment that there are three or four reasons why people move to Eau Claire. Jobs, family, parks. So if we are going to put the fee on the parks, I think, I'm caution you guys. I talk to a lot of people.
I just,
The committee there will be an outcry. I don't know, we're
I
gonna
just-
fix this one, it's just my caution.
I hear what you're saying, but just recall back to the local vehicle registration fee discussion last year. So the only options are, we have to either cut people, lay people off, you know what I'm saying? So we need ideas of how to,
Even right now,
put your mic on.
even right now, when I go outside, people are still upset about the vehicle registration. Up to right now, people are still talking about that one. So,
So what should we do, do you think?
Monday, we'll find out when they come here for public hearing.
Okay. So what's the thumbs up, thumbs sideways, thumbs down? I see 1, 2, 3, 4 thumbs up, 5, 6, and a few thumbs down. All right, let's continue on.
Okay.
Kitsy, you want to cover this one?
Yeah, this is a faster one, so I looked at this with a scalpel approach. I mean, there's some voluntary changes wanting to, like, for example, ICMA, that's one that Stephanie would want to discontinue. That's about $4,000 there. We have some options with not going to National League of Cities, and then also looking at the individual departments and respective budgets. What are we historically using versus what are we budgeting? We did that with overtime for a couple years. Now we can take a look at training. I think we just need to kind of have a 1 year, I guess it's best described as a 1 year kind of pause in some of the areas. And so I don't want to commit to any specific departments right now until we can get further on, but there would be a target set for trainings that it's reduced. And also memberships, I mean, you can evaluate, for example, we have a chamber membership for $3,000, we have $12,000 worth of meeting expense for some of the activities or meetings that we all attend. And who do you want to attend those, and can that be scaled back? Parks Association, or, there's government finance, so there's a lot of different options of memberships that we carry. Some we recommend, some we don't, but just kind of using the scalpel approach in different departments to get to that amount. We don't want to completely remove training because it is regressive, and we do take a lot from that. We also network, and most of the time we're asked to speak at those, so
It's like, Aaron? Oh,
Yeah, I'm fine with this.
Larry?
I'm fine with it, but the catch is training is very essential for city council and the staff. My proposal, I want to propose. So like, we go this National League of Cities once a year. So why can't in your term, if you have 3-year term, why can't somebody go once in that 3 years? That would reduce a lot.
So maybe explore a rotating type of scenario.
That's
So
what
with
I'm
the,
talking
with the terms, okay. So that would maybe, you know, that would decrease your budget then, you know, for the training, so that would help. Yep.
That's good.
Okay, so with that suggestion, thumbs up?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to suggest here that I just talk quickly about the innovation funding, and then I wanted to let people talk about what their proposals are, and maybe just we'll put transit on a future meeting, because we're going to run out of time otherwise, and that's a very big, or maybe we can come that to the end if we have time left, but I want you guys to get a chance to raise your suggestions. But, so just to give you an update on the innovation funding, it's proven to be very complicated, and the state is working out its guidelines, and they are kind of evolving as they answer questions. And it also requires partners. So we've basically crossed library off. We've crossed EMS district off. There was EMS district legislation that passed, but it has like amendments that kill the utility of it. So we crossed that off, unfortunately. These other 4 are still possibilities. Health would be the biggest. And this is a question of, it's kind of a longer discussion, but it would be, if it works, I think it would be great. But we're waiting for feedback back from DOR about, basically, it's really, to me, it seems really strange because you have to apply by the end of March and then you don't necessarily get a decision. But then you have to have everything completed by the end of June. So it's just it's pretty daunting. So just going, oh, sorry, I didn't advance. It's my slide, but not your slide. Okay, so that's those. And then we're looking at, for the rec innovation funding, we're looking at our soccer park in Hobbs. And the thinking is that, so just take the soccer park, we spend about $225,000 to maintain it, and we generate $50,000 in revenue approximately. So that's like a subsidy of $175,000. So let's say we partner up with like the Y or a nonprofit, user groups or whatever, and we say, okay, you are going to manage the soccer park going forward. We will give you the innovation funding, and so basically they would use the innovation, they would then meet with all the user groups, raise the fees a little bit, reduce their expenses, so maybe they don't mow as much, maybe parents stripe the lines, whatever, and then so they would lower expenses, raise the revenue a little bit, and then the innovation funding would be the remaining piece of it. And then we have to hold on to the property, so we would hold on to it for 5 years of the innovation funding. And in that time period, the entity, whether it be the Y or another nonprofit, would work with partners to figure out the long-term home of the sports facility. So it could be, and what Pat Newkirk was kind of fantasizing about was something like this. It's in Blaine. Is Pat here somewhere? Blaine, Minnesota. I bet Larry would really like this. Yeah. So that would be, but we don't want this to be a city thing, because we just can't keep, this would be us getting out of the business of managing it. It would be the user groups kind of pushing it forward, and Visit Eau Claire would be really interested in this too, because if you could have a facility like this, it would drive a ton of room dollars. So you like this idea, if we can get everything worked out?
The soccer guy has to say something. So, as a soccer guy, where is Mr. Lane? Is Lane here today?
I don't think Mr. Lane is here.
How comes? So I've been always proposing.
Oh, yeah.
I've always been proposing that soccer park, instead of having a grass, we could go turf. The turf, you don't maintain anything. the owner is like, Steve, you want to comment? Go.
No, I would say it's kind of a long conversation because we talked about this topic for like half an hour. But you can be on the committee. If this happens, you can be on the committee and guide those discussions. How about that? We'll appoint you.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, so this is a question. I noticed that the possible award exceeds the total budget deficit. I know it's unlikely, but is there any opportunity to shift funding from the award, or is that heavily regulated? And hypothetically, could this eliminate the need to cut anything, however unlikely that is?
No, it would just be 187,000 per year. But maybe if we could, work out the agreement,
Oh, okay.
maybe that could help our budget a little bit, but just a little bit.
Part of the innovation funding contract is who would receive the award of that
Oh.
innovation funding. So would that be split? That could be many different scenarios. I think the intention of us applying it is to assist those areas in those departments and not to retain that portion.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Just again, if you could walk me through the math, because I'm looking at these charts and I don't know how to reconcile those numbers with when I see Hobbs subsidy, Fairfax subsidy, and Soccer Park subsidy, and I add those up for savings, it's 665,000. So can you show me how we get to that?
Which slide are you looking at?
I'm sorry,
The-
the 2.15 million at the bottom?
I would just say that I could probably sit down and try to explain it to you, but these are like our moving targets. So like
Understand.
Fairfax would be implementing parking there, and then that would cover the Fairfax subsidy. In this case, it's somewhere in the transfer and the innovation funding. But
The Soccer Park subsidy is the expenses minus the revenue, and that was based off of 2024, and the two from Hobbs and Fairfax were 2025 subsidies, just rounded.
So I should still use the number in the original chart?
Yep.
As everything that you're talking about and everything you've learned doesn't really change that?
No,
Savings
we're
for
gonna
us.
use that master spreadsheet to balance, and then I think what, innovation funding, it looks like we're adding that in, but we wouldn't be adding that into our deficit, if that makes sense. So we wanna keep that out of the equation.
I just want to understand what we can still count on.
yeah.
Thank you.
But it is just like we were working on this till 4:55, so it does keep changing.
But we're still thinking it's in that
Yeah,
ballpark,
in
that
that
what's on
range, yep.
here? Okay.
Aaron?
Yeah, I don't disagree with it philosophically. I'm concerned that, just like most of the cuts that we're looking at making, or at least a majority of them, are gonna fall, hardest on the people that can least afford to, it'd be like the low-income family that, wants to have all three of their kids in the soccer program, but if the rates go up to use the soccer park, could only afford one or two. I don't know if there's a solution to that, because that's kind of the way government is, right? Like we try to provide opportunities for people that don't have those opportunities by virtue of their, socioeconomic status. And so when we have to cut things, it inevitably cuts hardest on those that can't fix that. And I don't know what to do about it, but it's something that bothers me.
Josh?
Yeah, if you go back up to slide number 12, or page 12, 2 pages before. So, library and EMS weren't eligible. Looking at the first page, we have the list of reductions. You still have library and health getting a $200,000 reduction, but if library is no longer eligible for an innovation fund, that doesn't really seem to be addressed with that. And then health department, yeah, I would hear more about this one. It sounds like the Department of Revenue doesn't even really know how much it's eligible for, whether it's the full budgetary or only the levied portion. So maybe it's 200, it's 2 million, maybe it's 500,000. It's kind of flip-flopping between those two. Is that an accurate assessment from the DOR, not really be able to pin this down?
Yeah, I think, great question. I think there's two things going on where we're trying to utilize innovation funding to make changes within the budget. All of the budgets outside of maybe two have proposed reductions. So when we look at a reduction to health of 100,000, you know, you have a reduction of 92,000 to finance too, or, you know, there's many different areas that are getting reduced outside of the innovation funding. The Department of Revenue has been fluid in their translation of what piece is eligible. So what I think we're landing on is 25% of the city levy contribution.
And then also with the health, since health is funded by city and the county, if we reduce X number of dollars, they have a commensurate X number of reduction of dollars from the county as well. So really any proposal that we do to levy is going to be actually double on the department.
Yep, it could be. Historically, we've matched that. If we're working towards any innovation funding changes, that might be something we can work with them on, but yes.
And then last thing here, the library is not eligible here, but it's still a $100,000 reduction from the library. That just can currently propose a straight cut to the library of that amount since they aren't
Yes.
innovation funding eligible.
Yeah, we have, I want to say it's every department, but 2 has a reduction within this proposal to get to the 2.2 million. So we didn't, kind of did a little bit here and a little bit there, and we had some volunteers of FTEs. We looked at some positions that were kind of the last ones in, and what could we do with those to still meet needs, and then there's set amounts from each of the other areas.
Okay, and then last question with those two departments. Part of the hardest hitting question here, I know that you are trying, from the city's perspective, trying to reduce any positions, but library and health have their own boards with their own budgets. They seem to be not quite as well protected as the city. I don't see how they can go forward without making cuts to actual personnel. Is that the reality of the budget situation we're looking at?
Well, we are making cuts to personnel. We're just that's why we're trying to decide this now so that we don't fill positions. So we've just the past 2 weeks, we eliminated 2 positions. But basically, we want as long of a runway as we can so that we don't have to lay people off.
Sure.
So they would need to know this now and decide to.
When you eliminate positions, were they open positions or were they?
They people like the community services director, we won't refill that.
Okay, just trying to get overall picture on the
But
impacts coming up.
they have a fund balance, so they have ways to generate revenue and write grants. So they kind of have different set of tools, but it's not a good situation for them. It's not a good situation for us. But there are different tools that they have available, and they should they'll be doing the same planning that we're doing of keeping positions open and not moving. Yeah.
Aaron?
Yeah, I guess I would say, get as much innovation stuff as you can. I know we talked about that before, but
I'm sorry.
I know some things aren't on there, but it's certainly worth looking at any and all of that.
We really tried, but some of them we just can't. We'd have to convince a partner to do it, and we can't always succeed at doing that. The health one is kind of in the county's court or whatever, because they would need to be the one doing the lion's share of the heavy lifting before the end of June. So that's what they're trying to figure out right now is, can they hustle and do this work? Or we're asking the DOR, can we figure out a way to phase it, and I could tell you more about it, but we really would love to have that money go to the health department, but it has to,
Sorry.
Is it okay if I go?
Go ahead.
I don't know that I see this on here, and maybe it is, but we had talked about this idea of reducing a day at the pool, potentially, last year. I know it's not a popular opinion, but I remember it saving a pretty decent amount, and frankly, when we're talking about what are the most essential things right now, pool.
Pat, come up.
That's been considered.
Yes, that was looked at last year. It's actually a little better to look at shortening the hours of public swim each day as opposed to picking a whole day to not just open. So if we were to do something like that, the better avenue would be to like reduce the open swim time from 1 to 7 to say 2 to 7 or 1 to 6.
That makes sense.
As opposed to picking Sunday, for
day.
example, to not open.
Is that reflected in any of these options here?
I don't
No.
believe so.
We can price it out if you want.
Yeah, we did price that out last year. What is proposed in the budget is to eliminate the subsidy in Hobbs in Fairfax, or what Stephanie's looking for feedback on. So we would essentially, Patrick would have to go back and reduce his budget somewhere to balance to 0 so we could publish it for council. Part of the solution that Stephanie was discussing was having paid parking at Fairfax and at Hobbs, because that's somewhat, it doesn't affect the per ticket every day, like for each of your children that's in the car, but maybe it's $1 or whatnot, but it is coming together a little bit to bridge that gap. So
Sure,
maybe a
but-
combination of both together might get us to where we don't have to fund Fairfax with that amount.
Larry?
Yeah. I think, when it was 3 or 4 days ago, one of the Ocrea constituents asked me this question. So I don't know if you, Dave or Steve would answer this one. They say, I'm not here to propose anything, just inform. I want to be informed. Why in the city department we have a supervisor, a manager, and a director?
Say that again. Why do we have what?
Like engineering or finance, where do we have a supervisor, a director, and a manager? Where do we have those ones? So they ask me, I could not answer it. So can you help me out to understand that?
It's just like a best practice. Oh, so you want to say?
Well, there aren't supervisors in engineering, but in community services, there are street supervisors, and I think Aaron, how much does each street supervisor have? 10? Accrue 10. If you look at organizational structures, the optimum number of people to supervise is between 8 and 10. Otherwise, you're not an effective supervisor. So our frontline supervisors in community services supervise 10 people. And then you have a manager above that, like Aaron is a streets manager, so streets and fleet, so he manages five supervisors. And then you have a director as the next one up that manages all 99? How many do you guys have in community services?
Wayne is 170.
170. So, I mean, if you don't have that broken down, it's not manageable to give good feedback on your employees, and then I think your performance would start to suffer, and then you would start to be inefficient. So that's just like when you look at organizational structures and management things, that's the number that you should be supervising. One person shouldn't supervise 20 people unless they're part-time. Your rec is different, where they have Christine Moore. I mean, how many does she supervise? I mean, 70, which is different with high school kids than permanent staff. But that's why it's laid out like that. Engineering has Leah as the director and then 2 deputy directors. The reason there's 2 predates me to attract people into those positions because salary lagged what engineering makes in the private sector. So that was set up strictly for that, not necessarily for supervisory responsibility. So if you wanted to retool it and call it a different name, you could, but that's why engineering has that. So.
Thank you. That's what
Yeah.
I wanted to know. It's not to propose anything.
I wonder, can we transition and people can throw it there? So we have we'll price out all of these and share them with you, and then I'll have to set up a follow-up meeting on transit. But can you throw out additional, do you want to share, we met with Claire and Aaron, they had some ideas. If you guys want to share those out, we can.
I actually have a couple more.
Yeah.
So
I want to
any
hear your new
suggestions?
ones first.
Yeah, so one of the ones, it's like, it might actually be time, I hate to do this, but if it's a choice between cutting transit and raising fares slightly, that might be something to look at. That also impacts paratransit as well, and also you know, there's definitely organizations that help with, you know, fundraising for low-income people and stuff with, you know, monthly passes and stuff for that. So it might be easier to deal with a slight increase as opposed to a service cut. That was one thing.
I just want to make a comment about that, or a question, actually, when I was looking at the slides about transit. I know we're going to talk about that later, but do we have, maybe, and this is maybe for the next conversation, have we modeled out what the finances, the money looks like if we bring paratransit in-house?
Yeah, that's one of the possible paths to getting to
Right.
that 250 cut from transit, so the savings.
Right, but have we done like some detail
We're
on
trying.
that modeling? Because I'm interested in the details of that.
Well, we're trying, yeah.
Okay. So
That is on the later slide, isn't it? Okay.
it's on there, but I just didn't, I'm asking for like, is it going to be a robust model where I can, like, you know, I'd like to see, especially if it's something, it's kind of like trash, you know, if we're going to bring it in-house, it behooves us to kind of do some depth on looking at, from a data point of view and a financial point of view, doing a pretty thorough look at it.
I guess
We'll
I
have
could go with my
more?
next one if
Yep.
nobody has a light on. So I was on student government at Eau Claire when there was a big state budget thing, and there was like furlough stuff. Is that an option that we could do? Let people pick extra vacation days in exchange for, you know,
Like an optional furlough?
either an optional furlough or I don't know. I'm not advocating for it. I'm just throwing it out as an option. Alternatively, do we have like a set amount of staff positions that we're not filling? Or how is that working? Like, could we set that?
It's like 28 or 20 or something.
We're evaluating them as they're presenting themselves, but also, yeah, we're close to that number with grant loss as well, so the SAFER grant and ARPA.
Sure.
So.
Okay. Yeah, so I would say if there's spots, you know, places where people could be moved around or kept open without devastating consequences to service, do that.
So we did have a kind of a long meeting. Was that yesterday? I think it was yesterday. And we continued, Stephanie, after you left. So there were a lot of ideas and a lot of things bandied about. One of them, Kitsy, I hate to put you on the spot, but we had talked about, and I'll put myself on the spot here, are there ways that we can for next year, and I wish Charlie were here so he could hear that we're willing to explore difficult things. And again, not excited about doing this, but it may be prudent to really look at reducing the health insurance, really reducing the kind of products that we are offering to our employees across the board.
Sure. Thank you for the segue, because I just wanted to recap too. So as we go throughout the year, I think the major transition and the major deficit was just an expedited, you know, health insurance situation. So we planned for a small budget. We could afford what we were doing. Our renewals are in alignment with the percentiles of other municipalities now. So this is just a new reality. Our renewal will come to us in September. At that point, you know, we're going to work quarterly with data. We're not going to have much data because we just started with our insurance company January 1st. But that is part of the puzzle. We can look at what benefits we're offering, so I can close the gap with some of that as well. But that does take away from the employees, and they look at that as a per hourly type of scenario. But as the insurance costs go up, that's a $14 million product for the city. So a 10 to 15% increase is substantial. So we try
We
to
did-
offset that.
yeah, we did, the employees did effectively have a pay loss this year due to the increasing health insurance, increase in their health insurance. So that, and that was very felt and noticed among the employees.
And I hate that. I hate to be in this position, but we are in this position, and we're trying to hold the whole of the community here and do a really tough balancing act. The reason I'm even bringing up the health insurance is because this is a chronic thing across the country with all types of employers. And so this isn't just a unique thing about rising health insurance costs to our city employees. This is something where every single person I talk to, they're getting less and having to pay more every year for health insurance. So no matter what industry they're in. So it's just kind of where we are. So it's a really unfortunate reality. I would love to see I had a thought, boy, if our state legislature were to change and there was an appetite for being able to do something for municipalities and across the state, wouldn't it be wonderful if municipalities could buy into Badger Care for their employees and have a publicly administered health insurance option or benefit for their employees? I mean, I'm just thinking that that's a way that the state can help municipalities. And I think there is an understanding that municipalities and when I say municipalities, I'm not talking just cities, but villages also in Wisconsin, we are all struggling, so.
I know we've talked about the health insurance thing sort of ad nauseum and how we're sort of not the best consumers or whatever your terminology for that was, because we, like, as the city uses more than we pay in. Is there a way that we could accelerate changing that? And because I think if we could get at some point very faster to a place that we're either self-insuring or self-insuring in combination with the school district and county or something, it feels to me like that's a way to maybe get that under control. And I'm not under any illusions that that's a solution for 2027, but if there's any way to push that forward, I don't know.
Can make small changes this year. What's on our mind is focusing on the direct primary care clinic, because we just pay a fee, and if people, if our employees choose to use that, it doesn't go to our health insurance. So that really does help the city. So we are looking at having some of our employees send out testimonials, and I reminded the group that we wanted to send that out today. But yes, we can fast track that. Unfortunately, it's more of a stick approach, but we can look at other options to help us get there, because it only benefits ourselves.
Did you say it's $14 million?
Yeah, within the budget, health insurance is $14 million.
So on the credit, you want to get rid of insurance? That's what you want?
I didn't want to get rid of it at all. What I was suggesting was reducing the benefits. These are products that are available. There's a whole spectrum and a whole array, and we could opt for less expensive kinds of plans and options, not eliminating it, no.
Thank you, that's what I want.
Last year we spent a lot of time looking at, this was such a substantial change for all of our staff. It's a teeter-totter, something they can live with. It wasn't a huge change for staff, still met their needs, but also that we could afford and they could afford. So it's a complex multitude of decisions that we go through during that process.
What about this Obamacare? Can you guys see the sign with Obamacare?
No, not at this point. We would be penalized if our employees took that. The last time I looked into the Affordable Care Act. Yep. We want to have our premiums affordable for the lowest paid full-time employee would be the most simplified definition for you, but no, we would get penalized if our staff took that.
Do you all have other ideas? Can you, so the ones we heard, did you want to share, was there any others? Like, okay. So, do you
I'm
want
kind
us to
of-
share those, or?
I'm kind of not thinking the police one would be a great idea, and it's on the list, so if anybody really wants to pick that one up, they
Okay.
can, but,
The police?
yeah.
I don't want the police.
No, you didn't look at that thing that he said.
So that's raise transit fares, reduce pool, open by day, have furloughs or optional furloughs, and reduce the employee health insurance contributions. Do you guys like these ideas to explore? Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I also put forth, reducing the salary increases, maybe not eliminate completely, but I think, Kitsy, did you say, so many of our employees are represented employees and union employees, so outside of those, the non-represented employees, if we froze their increases for 2027, I think you said it was about $300,000 savings. So just to put that out there that's a data point, that if we don't, but, maybe it's not freezing it at 2026 levels, but maybe we reduce that cost of living increase as also another possible tool. Again, I hate to do it, hate to even suggest it, hate to even speak the words, but this is where the situation we're in.
Josh and Nate have their things.
Just so we don't, and it looks like a very large one, the transit, we don't have the option. We're not going to get to it tonight. We're going to have an opportunity to discuss that after perhaps a work session after an upcoming council meeting.
Yeah, so transit, we have a bunch of like public engagement sessions, and I'll send those out to you, and we can also set up another meeting, but it's extremely complicated, and it's gonna be a very long conversation, so I think I'll set that up for another time.
Or are you looking like after the meetings next week or even
Yeah,
further?
we could do it.
Like whichever meeting is the least
Yeah.
long, but after
Good
that one
idea,
maybe?
we'll do it. Get your snacks.
Can we just
Nate.
continue to share ideas with
What?
you? Can we continue to share ideas?
Absolutely,
over the next
any
week?
and all ideas,
Yes.
we'll take them.
I just
Well,
thought of
Nate
one more.
has a.
Oh, yeah, one idea, I know it could be an upfront cost, could be shifting one FTE from one position to another, but a dedicated grant writer.
We would love to do that, but we would have to cut then another position. It
Aaron.
does look like the turning the lights off is not legal. That was something that Leah looked into.
Sorry, Andrew. Andrew, or
Would it be
Aaron?
possible in certain places that have the stuff that people really like the trails and the parks and stuff, just every so often have a little thing with a QR code, like, hey, we're trying to keep this going. If you have $5 and want to throw it in.
That's what I was saying, donation.
Well, I know, but that's a specific donation for a specific area that we generally spend a fair amount of money on. If that's something we could even do this year and see how it looks, and if that would be sufficient to keep us from having to do like paid parking at the parks. I would rather have it be voluntary than, I know we have the sign printing machine over in facilities.
I think just from a budgeting perspective, unless I have consistent donations coming in, like similar to the library, they sometimes have quite consistent donations for books or periodicals. So those you can sometimes set a base budget on and count on that, but it's an extremely conservative budgeting scenario.
Okay. Gloria, another?
Yeah, well, one other thing that was on that first sheet of suggestions from council members, the chart that we have, the handout with the chart, decreasing street sweeping, and it's somewhat covered by stormwater utility, but we had talked that could be like 100,000, is that what you had said, Kitsy? Did I get that right or not?
I don't know that, we didn't go too far in depth in that. We do charge the majority of that to stormwater, so we can take a look at what is left.
I do know when we said this at a meeting earlier today, our engineering director said, because it's required for compliance with our sewer storm. Is Leah still here?
Well, right, but then the
And
idea.
And Aaron too, it's required by the DNR.
But then
for
the
our
idea
sewer.
could be, could we transfer the whole cost? Does any
Well,
of
we
that
can
come out
check.
of our operating budget, or can we transfer it all to the general fund, or could we transfer it into the stormwater utility completely?
I can take a look to assure that we're doing it appropriately.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Any other great ideas? But you guys generally feel like we're doing our due diligence, trying our best, and if you have ideas, no, no? Oh,
Well, you brought us a list of approximately $2.2 million in savings, worse than all, but
did you have a
Yeah.
thought, Andrew?
I just,
So this made?
I kind of wish it was a little bit like we could choose 50% of these options kind of thing, instead of here's 100% of what you need to do. It's kind of how it felt going into this.
I totally agree, but if we put the ones any more that we thought of would seem like straw men, you know what I mean? So it's almost like you just have to give us the ideas and we'll cost them out, and if you want to do them, we can do them, you know? Because if they're things that we really disagree with, it's, you know, hard to put them on. But if you have an idea, we will, and you vote for it, then it'll be done, so.
Great. Thanks.
Okay, thank you guys, we'll see you next week.
Thanks
Go
to
on your
everybody for the hard
meeting.
work on this. Thank you.